Hello, boys and girls. I want to share with you the character analysis I did for the book Patrol by Walter Dean Myers. The character analysis is one of the pages on my Google site. So first, I want to share with you the analysis itself, and then I want to explain my thinking as I wrote it. So here we go. In the book Patrol, Walter Dean Myers brings a protagonist to life that is both purposefully vague and uniquely human. The soldier is depicted as consistently torn between the obligations of duty and the grounding reality of his inner voice. He's also moved throughout the book to consider the implications of seeking out and targeting an enemy that is the mirror image of everything he seems to see in himself. In short, Meyer portrays a character who is a compassionate and empathetic human, in contrast with the clear and dire expectations of a soldier on patrol in the war-torn forests and hillsides of Vietnam. Myers sets the expectations of soldiery up quickly on the first page of Patrol, indicating, "My squad of 9 men are in the forest." This clearly shows the reader that our protagonist is indeed in these forests for the distinct purpose of war. On the next page, Meyer writes, "Somewhere in the forest, hidden in the shadows, is the enemy. He knows I have come to kill him. He waits for me." This passage demonstrates that the main character is thinking early and often about his enemy and considering this enemy's thoughts and designs. A little later, in the midst of a firefight, the main character states, "I empty my clip, sending more bullets, and the radio crackles in my hand as I call for bombs." This shows that he will routinely fulfill his role as soldier when needed. Conversely, throughout the story, his role of soldier seems to be compromised often as the reader is privy to his inner thinking. The most poignant examples are on display as he vividly describes the people who live in the village that the squads target. The enemy. A brown woman with rivers of age etched deep into her face, and babies, little enemies with tears streaming down dusty cheeks. These descriptions clearly show a man who has empathy and sympathy for those he is supposed to consider to be the enemy. He can't help but see them as people who are suffering and have real feelings. This sense of human decency continues when, after leaving the village, protagonist has the chance to shoot an enemy soldier as his squad is getting withdrawn from the area by helicopter. He has locked eyes with this enemy soldier, and as the soldier is fleeing, he has the chance to shoot him. I lift my rifle. I aim at the distant shadow. I am the enemy. I lower my rifle. The fact that he completes the inaction, avoiding the easy shot, shows that his inner voice, his true self, is winning the battle over his external, expected role as soldier in this example. In the end, the no-name, vague, yet humane character Myers depicts in the book Patrol is one that captures the essence of every man amidst the backdrop of a foreign war over foreign affairs. We see through his consistent reflection and empathy a portrait of a person struggling with the overwhelming power of his compassionate human nature, in contrast with the expectations beset upon him as U.S. soldier. In conclusion, the story leaves the reader hopeful as it seems our character's moral compass wins out over the external pressures of expectations as soldier. All right, so now I want to talk a little bit about what I was thinking as I was writing this. So whenever we set up a character analysis, we want to consider, what are we trying to prove? That's the big thing. What questions are we answering? What are we trying to prove? So I want to look to some of the questions that we've gone over in class and kind of explain which questions I am attributing this analysis to. So when we think about what kind of person is the main character, there's some different questions that kind of focus on what's new for the character. Character could have, but instead, what's the character's backstory? And in these situations, I don't really know the answers to these three questions, but this one right here, what do moments of trouble reveal about the person? That's kind of at the heart of my analysis, because the trouble is what I'm answering. It's like when he responds to his role in the firefight and the situations at hand, we see a clear vision of who he really is. So that's kind of what I'm explaining there. Next set of questions are, what's going on? Like, what's the historical conflict? Well, we know it's the Vietnam War. What role is the protagonist playing in it? This is a biggie. This is a big part of the analysis because it allows for me to explore that role as soldier in contrast to who I have found him to be by reading the story several times. And then this leads us to kind of the conclusion here, or the hypothesis, I guess. Are there character traits that collide with what's going on? And I would say yes. We've discussed this in class. His traits of empathy, sympathy, compassion, these things are at odds with his role as soldier. And that's what I really tried to explore in writing this. Might the resulting tension be the conflict at the heart of the story? I would say yes. So when we look back at the essay, um, the setup is a little bit of background here. Walter Dean Myers brings a protagonist to life that is purposefully vague and human. We don't know his name. We don't know his backstory. It's purposely vague to kind of give a voice to the everyman soldier. The soldier is depicted as torn between the obligations of duty and the reality of his inner voice. This is what's really explored in this essay. If you look at the last line of the paragraph, the intro paragraph here, we see Myers portrays a character who's compassionate and empathetic. And so these are the traits that I kind of need to explore and prove, in contrast with the dire expectations of a soldier on patrol. So I need to prove, when I'm thinking about what am I going to do in this essay, I need to prove that he's compassionate and empathetic, and also that he has the expectations. That's what he needs to do. And as you read through the essay, that's exactly what I do here. Is the first part here is showing all the things that he has to do as a soldier, the firefight, the radio call. And as it moves on into the village, we see him, the specific quotes from the village, see him looking at the enemy more or less through the eyes of compassion and love. And that's where that empathy is demonstrated, is he's thinking of the enemy more in terms of human, and not just a target. So basically, structurally speaking, we want to set up what we're trying to write, what we're trying to prove, what questions we're trying to answer in that first introductory paragraph. And the body paragraph, second paragraph, is where we use all the quotes, the evidence that we have to prove it, along with the reasoning to support it. For instance, here where it says like this shows you. I don't know if I can get that to go back up. Oops. Uh-oh. Pause. For instance, where it says this clearly shows the reader that the protagonist is indeed in these forests for the distinct purpose of war. That's the explanation of the quote. So for each quote, we want to have a kind of like a reasoning explaining why it's important and how it's answering the question. When you wrap up your essay, you want to kind of tie together the details that you put out there. So what have I proven? I've proven that he's, in fact, stuck being a soldier, but he's also very human. So we see his consistent reflection and empathy, a portrait of a person struggling with the overwhelming power of his compassionate human nature, in contrast with the expectations, basically, of being a soldier. And that's how we conclude it. So it is a little bit of redundancy, but you're kind of saying it is like, where have we arrived since we started here in the first paragraph? I hope this has been somewhat helpful for you. See me for further advice on this. Thank you.